Nobody expected the Denver Broncos to come out like this. The talk was all about slow starts, about Bo Nix needing time, about Sean Payton's system still finding itself, but then they stepped on the field against the Titans and flipped the entire script. This win wasn't pretty at first glance, but now that the dust has settled and the film has been broken down, what looked like an ugly grind might be the start of something much bigger. The Broncos aren't just winning games, they're rewriting their identity in real time. This team is now riding a 4-game heater, stretching back through the preseason and into week 1, and yet almost no one is talking about what's actually changed. It's not just one unit carrying the load. It's not a lucky break or a soft schedule. It's layers. It's Bo Nix showing signs of both growth and chaos. It's a run game that looked dead in the first half but came alive like someone flipped a switch. And quietly, it's a defense that isn't just fast, it's surgical. But we'll get there. First, you have to understand how this offense went from flat to fearless in just one half of football. Because what happened in the second half was no accident. It wasn't luck or momentum. It was calculated, it was brutal, and it was the exact opposite of what fans were fearing. The offensive line found rhythm. The play calling stopped dancing and started punching. Bo Nix didn't need to be a superstar, he just needed to settle down. And the moment that shift happened, everything else followed. So if the story starts with Nix, let's dig into what really happened under center and why the stats don't tell the full truth. But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Broncos and all the NFL content. Can we get 200 likes on this video? Bo Nix was supposed to come out firing, second-year quarterback, full offseason as QB1, a system built around his strengths. But that's not what fans saw against the Titans. What they saw was hesitation. What they saw was pressure getting to him literally and mentally. 2 interceptions on just 7 pressured throws is a red flag by any standard. Delay of game penalties, missed reads, even locking in too much on Courtland Sutton. The timing felt off, the confidence wasn't there, and for a brief moment, people wondered if Bo had taken a step backward. But here's the twist. Buried under all that frustration was a stat that quietly flips the panic into potential. Last season, Bo Nix finished with a quarterback rating of 113.5 against the blitz in his final 9 games. That ranked 9th best in the NFL as a rookie. At Oregon, he tossed 21 touchdowns against pressure in his final year. This isn't a quarterback who crumbles under fire. This is a guy who usually reads it, trusts it, and rips through it. The problem on Sunday wasn't the blitz. It was overthinking, overreaching, and trying to prove too much all at once. Sean Payton sees that, and he's not asking Bo to be a superhero. He's asking him to be smart, boring, and dangerous all at once. The kind of quarterback who takes the check down, controls the clock, then picks his moment to strike. That's how Tom Brady built a dynasty. It's how veteran QBs survive for years. And Bo Nix isn't far from figuring that out. But while the offense had its roller coaster moments, what the Broncos did after halftime might have saved their season before it even started. Let's break down the second half transformation that completely changed the tone of this game. The first half told one story. The second half told a completely different one. After an opening 30 minutes full of confusion, penalties, and no rhythm, the Denver Broncos came out after the break and looked like an entirely new offense. Suddenly, the run game found life, the offensive line started punching back, and the entire unit moved with purpose. That wasn't random. It was a complete identity shift from finesse to physical. Sean Payton dropped the fancy calls, tightened the scheme, and leaned on what actually works. Here's what made that switch so dangerous. The Broncos faced a stacked box on 40% of their carries, which usually signals a defense selling out to stop the run. But in the second half, Denver shredded those looks with 4 different runs that went over 10 yards, including a 50-yard explosion from rookie RJ Harvey. That wasn't just a big gain, it flipped the entire field. J.K. Dobbins added a violent 19-yard touchdown run moments later, and just like that, the offense became the bully. The offensive line, criticized heavily in the first half, finished the game having allowed only 1 sack on more than 40 pass attempts. This wasn't about a superstar takeover. It was about execution. It was about correcting the tempo, trusting the backs, and letting the offensive line play downhill. Once they made that shift, the Titans had no answers. But while the offense found a new gear, what the defense did never needed adjustments. From the opening snap, they weren't just fast, they were surgical. The story on that side of the ball is deeper than just box scores. What you're about to hear will change how you view this entire team. The numbers tell part of the story, but the real shock is in how Denver's defense did it. Holding an NFL team to just 133 total yards in today's league is rare. But doing it while racking up 6 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, and forcing multiple fumbles, that's domination on every level. From the first snap, they collapsed the pocket, smothered the run, and suffocated every attempt to stretch the field. Rookie quarterback Cam Ward had nowhere to go, no time to think, and no rhythm to build. He wasn't just pressured, he was drowned. What makes this even more dangerous is who wasn't on the field. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, one of the Broncos' most instinctive defenders, missed the game with a quad issue. And yet, the defense didn't flinch. They played like a unit with 0 weak spots. Even after a special teams mistake put them in a red zone stand, the defense responded by knocking the Titans out of field goal range entirely. That's not just talent. That's pride, preparation, and depth. This wasn't a defense holding the line. This was a defense setting the tone. The scariest part? This might not be their ceiling. What you saw on Sunday was a group that didn't just react, they dictated. But while the entire unit stood tall, there was one player who exploded off the screen. A pass rusher who looked like he'd finally arrived not just as a contributor, but as a force. His name is Nick Bonito, and what he did next can't be ignored. Nick Bonito didn't just play well, he took over the game. The second-year edge rusher exploded for 9 pressures on only 22 pass rush snaps, including 5 that came in under 2.5 seconds. That's freakish speed. The Titans tried to contain him, but it didn't matter. Bonito broke past double teams, fought through holds, and created chaos from the first series. By the time the Titans adjusted, it was already too late. The Broncos had built their defensive identity around speed, and Bonito was the spark behind it. What makes his performance even more dangerous is how it elevated everyone around him. Jonathan Cooper fed off that energy and nearly walked away with a second sack. Jonah Ellis stepped in as a situational rusher and made his presence felt. Jaquan McMillan jumped in with a strip sack to end the game. And when you can add that kind of production without leaning on blitzes every snap, you become unpredictable. Bonito's impact made the Broncos feel like they were rushing with extra bodies, even when they weren't. But Bonito wasn't the only one turning heads. Behind that pass rush was a secondary that quietly erased Tennessee's passing attack. While the front was wreaking havoc, the back end was locking everything down. And one name in particular deserves his own spotlight. Pat Surtain didn't just play well, he completely shut the lights off. Let's break down what made the secondary look like they had an extra man on the field. Pat Surtain didn't allow a single catch, not one. Across 34 coverage snaps, he was targeted just once and broke up the only ball that came his way. He spent over 84% of his reps shadowing Calvin Ridley, the Titans' top wideout, and completely erased him from the game. It's one thing to lock down your assignment. It's another to make an entire side of the field disappear. That's exactly what Surtain did, and it turned the Broncos' defense into a 1-0 on 1-0 chess match where Denver always had the upper hand. But it wasn't just Surtain. The rest of the secondary showed elite timing, discipline, and awareness. Talanoa Hufanga was flying around the field like he had the playbook in his hands. He forced a critical fumble and was constantly near the ball, whether in coverage or run support. Brandon Jones and Riley Moss brought a level of physicality that made every reception a risk. The coverage didn't just prevent big plays, it completely disrupted timing routes and broke the Titans' rhythm. When your secondary holds tight coverage, it buys your pass rush more time. When your pass rush gets home early, it bails out your secondary. What Denver showed was a rare balance of both. And while the Stars made headlines, some of the most important plays came from names the casual fan might not even know. These unsung pieces are proving that Denver's depth is no longer a weakness, it's a weapon. So here's the question for Broncos fans. What do you expect to see in Week 2? Does Bo Nix take the next step forward? Do we finally see Dre Greenlaw return and tighten up the middle even more? And how many points do you think this defense will allow against the Colts? Drop your score predictions in the comments and let us know who deserves a game ball heading into next week. If you're riding with this Broncos squad, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep the energy high. Mile High Football might be turning the corner, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.